The Force whispered, first soft, uncertain, like wind brushing across ancient stone. Jedi Master Orla Jareni paused at the edge of the clearing, her white and gold robe shifting beneath the pale glow of the system's twin moons. Something had changed. Something other had entered this world. The outpost sensors had detected nothing, no ship, no hyperspace ripple, no signature of metal or fire. Yet the Force itself trembled as though something powerful had torn through it without warning. The ground pulsed, and then the stars tore open. A rift, neither hyperspace breach nor conventional portal, manifested above the forest floor, shimmering like liquid violet. Orla lifted her hand, preparing a defensive stance, but the wave of energy hit first. Spiritual, ancient, alive. Jedi Knight Keeve Trennis felt it too as she stumbled forward, gripping her lightsaber. "What in the Force is that?" Keeve whispered. Orla didn't answer. She sensed no malice, but she sensed purpose. The rift collapsed inward and a figure fell through. He landed in a crouch, claws carving small trenches in the soil. A suit of obsidian metal hugged his frame, outlined with glowing violet streaks that faded quickly as if adjusting to the new world. His eyes shone behind a sleek mask. Vibranium hummed softly, reacting to the Force-saturated environment. The stranger rose with the poise of a predator and the dignity of a king. Orla stepped forward cautiously. "I am Jedi Master Orla Jareni of the High Republic. You have entered a world connected by the Force. Who are you?" The figure hesitated, as though orienting himself. His voice was calm, deep, and steady. "I am T'Challa, King of Wakanda." Or at least, he scanned the trees, the night sky, the twin moons. "I was. This is not my world." His muscles tightened, not in fear, but readiness. He analyzed everything: the Jedi stances, the environment, the vibrations in air and soil. Even disoriented, he was strategic. Keeve whispered, "He doesn't feel like a Force user." "No," Orla murmured. "He doesn't, but the Force surrounds him all the same." T'Challa's head turned slightly. "You speak of the Force as if it is a being. I felt something push against me during my ritual, a storm of energy." He remembered the ancestral plain, its quiet sands, the tall grasses swaying under purple skies, the presence of his forefathers. He had been speaking to Bast, the Panther goddess herself, when a sudden rupture, like a star collapsing, snatched him into darkness. "I was communing with my ancestors," he said slowly. "Their voices were torn away. Something reached through our realm." Orla exchanged a troubled glance with Keeve. The Jedi had encountered vergences, Force nexuses that bent reality, but nothing like this. "We sensed the disturbance," Orla said gently. "It brought you here." T'Challa touched his suit. The kinetic energy storage matrix flickered, struggling to harmonize with this galaxy's unique energetic field. His enhanced senses felt different too, sharper, almost guided, as if invisible currents were nudging intuition. It was not the blessing of Bast, nor was it the Force. It was something between. Keeve raised her hands disarmingly. "We're not here to harm you, but you fell from, well, nowhere. The Jedi Order can help you understand what happened." T'Challa considered this. His instincts told him the two robed figures were not enemies. Their stances were too open, their eyes too honest. But a king trusted nothing blindly. "Very well," he said. "But understand this. I do not surrender myself." Keeve blinked. "We weren't asking you to." Orla smiled faintly. A reasonable stance for a king. They guided him toward their shuttle. As they moved through the forest, T'Challa noted every sound: the distant chirring of nocturnal insects, the hum of alien flora, the oddly rhythmic heartbeat of this world. The air was unfamiliar, tasting metallic and vibrant. His senses were still recalibrating, but he walked with complete control. Keeve whispered to Orla through the Force, "He's dangerous." Orla replied calmly, "Yes, but also centered. That combination is rare." Back aboard the shuttle, T'Challa studied the controls, the glowing panels, the repulsor lift hum. Technology unlike any on Earth, yet intuitive in its design. Keeve glanced at him. "So, king of where?" "Exactly?" T'Challa's answer held both pride and sadness. "A hidden nation called Wakanda, a place of honor." A place I must return to. The shuttle lifted through the alien sky. The force stirred again, rippling in circles across the planet's surface. This was no ordinary arrival. It was the beginning of something the Jedi had never foreseen. And if you want to see more characters enter the Star Wars galaxy, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character you'd want to see in the comments below. May the Force be with you. The Starlight Beacon hung in orbit like a radiant jewel, its golden architecture gleaming against the quiet vastness of hyperspace lanes. As the shuttle approached the massive station, T'Challa watched the swirling lights of star traffic, the steady patterns of patrol ships, and the serene but disciplined movements of Jedi cruisers. This was not merely a structure, it was a symbol. Even he could sense that. A beacon meant to unify, to calm, to elevate. Yet the air inside hummed with tension the moment he stepped through the doors. Dozens of Jedi Knights, Padawans, and Masters alike turned toward the newcomer. Curiosity rippled through the halls, followed by something sharper. A man in unknown armor, appearing from a dimensional tier, had already spread through the station via whispered rumors. T'Challa felt the weight of their gazes. Not hostile, not fearful, but evaluative. Jedi Master Stellan Gios approached with long strides, posture upright, hands clasped behind his back. His presence radiated controlled authority. Master Jareni, Knight Trennis, you've returned early. Reports indicated you encountered an anomaly? Not an anomaly, Kiev said, almost stumbling over her words. A person. Stellan's gaze shifted to T'Challa, scanning the suit, the stance, the unreadable mask. You wear armor unlike anything in the Republic, and you move like a trained warrior. I am Stellan Gios of the Jedi Council. Identify yourself. T'Challa removed his mask with a slow, deliberate motion. His face was calm, regal, his eyes steady and assessing. I am T'Challa, son of T'Chaka, king of Wakanda. He paused, letting the title settle, then added, My world is not part of your republic. A murmur spread through the nearby Jedi. Stellan studied him, but not with suspicion, rather with a historian's mind trying to categorize an impossibility. Your energy signature is unique. You do not touch the Force in any conventional way, yet you seem aligned with something ancient. Orla nodded. He came through a breach unlike anything I've sensed. It wasn't hyperspace, and it wasn't a Force vergence. And he survived intact? Stellan asked. T'Challa's tone sharpened slightly. I am more durable than I appear. Kiev whispered. Understatement of the century. Stellan stepped closer. Your presence here poses questions we must understand. We would like to run non-invasive scans. No. The refusal was calm, but firm enough that several Jedi stiffened instinctively. I do not submit to tests without purpose, T'Challa continued. If you intend to understand me, then speak to me. Ask me. Honesty is not a burden. Stellan's composure didn't break. Then perhaps we can start with how you arrived here. T'Challa exhaled slowly, recalling the ancestral plane, the sands, the spirits, the sudden fracture in reality. I was in communion with my ancestors, guided by Bast, protector of my people. During the ceremony, the world trembled, not from within, but from outside. Something reached into that sacred place and tore me free. The room fell silent. Jedi did not often hear of other spiritual planes. The concept unsettled them not because it contradicted the Force, but because it implied there were realms even the Jedi did not understand. Finally, Stellan said, Your spiritual energy is resonating with the Force. That may be why you were drawn here. Drawn, T'Challa repeated, or pulled. Before the discussion could continue, Master Avar Kriss entered the hall, her presence luminous and commanding. She moved with the confidence of someone who balanced diplomacy and battle with equal grace. I felt the disturbance from across the station. She approached T'Challa directly, her voice gentle. You've traveled far, perhaps farther than any being we have ever encountered. The Force is singing around you loudly. T'Challa's gaze narrowed slightly. This Force is watching me then? In its own way, Avar said. It observes everything, but your arrival, it resonates like a chord struck too sharply. Stellan folded his arms. The Council will need to determine how to proceed. But for now, you are not a prisoner. You are a guest. T'Challa inclined his head. Then I will behave as one. Kiev stepped forward. We can show him the beacon. Let him see who we are. What we do. Avar smiled. A wise idea, Knight Trennis. Understanding begins with exposure. As they guided him through the station, T'Challa observed everything: the lightsaber training halls, where Padawans practiced with disciplined precision, the meditation chambers humming with quiet energy, the bustling medical wings filled with healers and helpers. He saw how the Jedi moved with purpose, but not arrogance. How their power, vast as it was, felt contained by philosophy rather than pride. Yet he also sensed something else beneath the surface. Pressure, fear, a shadow growing at the edges of their peace. He had lived among political councils, under threats hidden behind smiles. He recognized tension when he saw it. Kiev led him to an observation deck overlooking the stars. So, Wakanda, what's it like? He smiled faintly. Beautiful, proud, hidden for its own protection. You miss it, she said softly. I never stop. Kiev's expression softened. She knew loss. Everyone here did. T'Challa looked out at the galaxy before him, so broad, so strange, so ancient. If I am to remain here, I will not do so as a bystander. Kiev shrugged. With what you can do, I doubt anyone could keep you standing still. But as the stars glimmered, the Force stirred, guiding, watching, waiting. Something had brought the King of Wakanda here, and the galaxy was already changing. T'Challa had been among the Jedi for only 3 standard days, yet every hour stretched long with contradiction. The Jedi Temple outpost on Valo was serene in ways that felt almost impossible, designed for peace, contemplation, and discipline. He admired it, he respected it, but he did not belong to it. From the balcony overlooking the training grounds, T'Challa watched a group of younglings practice saber forms under the instruction of a serene Mirialan Jedi Knight. Their movements were fluid, controlled, governed by philosophy as much as physical skill. It reminded him of home, of Shuri sparring with Dora Milaje apprentices, of rituals meant to forge harmony between strength and responsibility. But here, something was different. These children were not being shaped into leaders. They were being shaped into instruments of peace. Hillis Vaughn approached silently, though T'Challa sensed her presence. She was a calm presence, something between a knight and a philosopher. You study us, she said with a rare smile, even when you think no one notices. I study everything, T'Challa replied. That is how a king keeps his people safe. Hillis folded her arms. There it is again. This idea of kingship, rule, leadership. Your identity seems tied to it. He turned to her, meeting her gaze steadily. You say that as though it were a fault. It is not a fault, she said gently. It is a path, but it is not our path. Jedi do not rule. We do not lead nations. We serve the Force, not a people. And that is where we differ, T'Challa replied. I serve my people first. Every decision I make must reflect that. Every life I protect is a sacred duty. Attachment, Hillis murmured. A complicated word. He raised a brow. You say it as though it is something to fear. It is something to respect, she corrected. But left unchecked, attachment can cloud judgment. A Jedi cannot place one life above another. T'Challa looked back toward the younglings, voices echoing across the grounds. Where I come from, if a leader treats all lives equally, they are a coward. A king stands for his people, not for the galaxy. Hillis sighed. Then the challenge becomes obvious. Yes, T'Challa thought. How could someone born to protect a nation become a servant of a cosmic order? The Jedi had run scans and tests on him earlier that day. Nothing invasive, they respected him too much for that. But they were curious. Why did he move like a predator, sensing threats before they formed? Why did his instincts echo precognition? Why did he feel like a presence aligned with the Force, yet not born of it? The conclusion was still unclear. Even more unclear was his place among them. Later that afternoon, T'Challa joined a meditation session. It was strange. Jedi sat in a circle, breathing in rhythm with the Force. He tried to participate, but his soul did not flow with theirs. It ran in a different direction, a river connected to Bast, the Panther goddess. to the ancestral spirits who whispered in silence. Master Ilyas, a wise old Keldor, opened one eye and regarded him. "You are not at ease, son of another world." "I am not a monk," T'Challa said quietly. "I respect the discipline, but meditation is not how I touch the spirit." "Then how do you touch it?" T'Challa inhaled deeply. The answer came not from thought, but memory. Through legacy, through the voices of those who came before me, through ritual, through duty. Ilyas gave a knowing nod. "You walk a warrior's path. The Jedi also walk such a path." "Do they?" T'Challa asked. "Because many of your own speak as if emotion is a weakness and responsibility a burden." "A Jedi must feel," Ilyas corrected. "But discipline must guide those feelings. Otherwise, the galaxy pays the price." T'Challa considered that. "On my world, to lead without emotion is to rule without compassion." "We do not rule," Ilyas repeated gently. And there it was again, the fracture point. T'Challa was beginning to understand the root of their philosophy. The Jedi do not lead. They advise. They protect. They intervene. But they do not govern. To a king, that was unthinkable. Leadership was not optional. Responsibility was not negotiable. He rose from the meditation circle, unable to continue. Ilyas let him go without judgment. Later that evening, Sira the Padawan, who had taken to observing him closely, approached him in the training yard. "Are you frustrated?" she asked. He paused mid-strike. "I am, considering." "You're not the first to struggle with our ways," she said. "Some Jedi want to lead. Some want families. Some want to fight wars." She shrugged. "We learn to let go." T'Challa shook his head. "I cannot let go. A king does not shed responsibility like a cloak." "So you will not be one of us?" T'Challa sheathed his claws. "I do not know. But I cannot abandon who I am to become something I am not." Before Sira could respond, an alarm blared through the temple, a distress signal from the jungle moon. Aaron Tal, Helis rushed into the courtyard. "Panther with me!" "The Drengir have awakened." T'Challa's answer was immediate. Duty not to the Jedi, but to life itself propelled him forward. And though he did not yet understand their order, one truth had become clear. He would fight beside them, but he would never be shaped by them. The jungle moon of Aaron Tal was silent in a way that felt wrong. Jedi Knight Hellas Vaughn had warned T'Challa before they even stepped off the shuttle. Where the Drengir root, the natural order dies. But he had not expected this. Even the wind seemed afraid to move. The canopy above them twisted unnaturally, vines curling like watchful serpents. Somewhere deeper in the foliage, something pulsed slow, rhythmic, hungry. T'Challa knelt and touched the soil. Cold, dead. Vibranium in his suit thrummed, picking up micro-vibrations from beneath the surface. "They're below," he said quietly. Helis blinked. "You sense them?" "Not with the Force," T'Challa replied. "With instinct, with experience. Corruption this deep, it never stays still." The Jedi exchanged looks, unsettled. They were used to reading currents of life through the Force. But this man, this outsider, had detected what they could not yet perceive. Padawan Sira nudged closer, whispering, "Master." "He's reading the ground like a tracker." T'Challa allowed himself a faint smile. "Wakanda is a living place. It speaks if you know how to listen." They moved as a unit through the twisted flora. Helis led with calm authority, lightsaber unlit but ready. T'Challa followed, Panther habit adjusting its sensors to map out the subterranean tunnels. His HUD flashed warnings. Life form, multiple, movement, rapid, density, unknown. Then came the first scream. A Republic Ranger burst from the brush, armor shredded, terror wild in his eyes. They got inside the roots. "Don't touch, don't touch." A vine erupted from the ground beneath him, impaling and hoisting him into the air. The man didn't even have time to cry out again. More roots writhed upward, forming a circle around the group. Hellas ignited her lightsaber. Drengir. The forest erupted. Great skeletal maws split open in the bark of thick vines, rows of thorn teeth grinding. A massive Drengir rose, towering over the Jedi, its body a mass of twisting vegetation and flexing roots. Its voice, if it could be called a voice, gurgled through sap-slick jaws. Meet. T'Challa moved first. The Drengir lunged, but he was faster. He rolled beneath its strike, claws extended, slashing deep into its wooden flesh. Sap sprayed, sizzling against his suit. He flipped onto its back, driving both claws down like twin spears. The creature roared and flung him into a tree. His vibranium absorbed most of the impact, but he still felt the force rattle his bones. Helus and Sira struck next, their lightsabers carving burning arcs through the creature's limbs. But for every severed appendage, two more sprouted, writhing like angry serpents. They regenerate too quickly, Sira shouted. They feed on the dark, Helus replied through gritted teeth, pushing back a gnashing tendril. Focus on the core. Another Drengir burst from the ground behind them. Then another, and another. T'Challa realized instantly. They were not dealing with a nest. They were dealing with a mass. A collective intelligence rooted deep beneath the forest. Every tree and vine connected through a single monstrous hive. He leapt into the air, activating kinetic redistribution. Energy rippled across his suit in purple veins. Mid-air, he triggered release a concussive blast hurled downward. The explosion tore through the vines, flattening a clearing and throwing Drengir backward in pieces. Sira stared. He can do that? Do not let your focus break. Helus snapped, blocking another tendril. T'Challa landed in a crouch beside them. Helus shot him a sharp, breathless glance. Tell me you have a plan. He did. But they wouldn't like it. Their roots spread for kilometers, T'Challa said. Cutting them won't work. Burning them won't work. You have to sever their mind, their connection to the soil. Sira shook her head. We don't know where the core is. I do, he replied, tapping his HUD. Your force senses read the future. Mine read the motion beneath our feet. There is a central mass directly beneath the ridge. Helus understood immediately, and she hated the implications. You're suggesting we go below. T'Challa nodded. Strike the heart, the body dies. The Drengir let out a coordinated, hissing laugh as if mocking the idea. Helus raised her lightsaber. Very well. Panther, lead us to the core. They fought their way toward the ridge, carving through regenerating tendrils, dodging gnarled jaws, and pushing against a rising tide of living nightmares. T'Challa was a blur of black and violet, weaving between Jedi strikes, turning each kinetic blast into controlled devastation. His instincts guided him as surely as any Force vision. At last they reached the ridge's overhang and saw it, a cavern mouth, choked with pulsing roots. A heartbeat echoed from within. Sira whispered, trembling, That's alive. T'Challa stepped forward, eyes narrowing behind his mask. Then we end it. And together, the Outsider King, the seasoned Jedi, and her young apprentice, they plunged into the darkness, ready to strike at the belly of the Drengir. The Nihil did not creep into systems. They did not infiltrate. They arrived like a thunderclap, like a natural disaster with a face and a name. Their path engines tore through hyperspace, ripping open cracks of electric turbulence as their ships erupted from the void. And on the transport returning from the Drengir purge, T'Challa saw his first surge of the Marauders known only as the Storm. The alarms blared before the Jedi ship even completed reversion. The pilot cursed under her breath. They're on top of us! Nihil strike formation! T'Challa immediately stood, stabilizing himself against the violent shaking. Who are they attacking? Anyone, Helus said grimly, strapping herself into a seat. That is the problem. Metal fire streaked past the viewport, jagged, asymmetrical ships marked with storm symbols and war paint. Their engines sputtered unstable lightning like beasts foaming at the mouth. The Nihil fought the same way they lived. Unpredictable, chaotic, brutal. Sira slid into a seat beside T'Challa. They don't want territory. They don't want politics. They want fear. T'Challa's jaw tightened. They will get none from me. No one terrorizes my people. No one terrorizes the innocent. The first impact rocked the ship hard. The lights flickered, and the cabin dipped sharply. They're attempting a boarding latch, the pilot shouted. Helus ignited her lightsaber. Prepare for contact. The boarding tunnel connected with a thunderous CLAing. Sparks rained down from the seams as a circular cutter began melting a hole through their hull. T'Challa slipped on his mask. "I will take point." Hellas raised a hand. "We fight together." But she didn't push him away. She didn't question his readiness. Not anymore. The metal disc blew inward, and the first wave of Nihil stormtroopers surged through the breech-masked raiders in patchwork armor, howling their battle cries. Their weapons fired unstable energy bolts that crackled with chemical toxins and ion disruptors. T'Challa met them head-on. He moved like a panther erupting from tall grass, silent, precise, devastating. A Nihil swung a serrated blade. T'Challa ducked under it, drove his claw into the man's chest plate, and sent him crashing backward with a kinetic discharge. The next raider fired point blank. The blast hit T'Challa's chest, purple energy veins flashing as the vibranium absorbed the hit. The follow-up release sent 3 raiders flying. Sira stared. "He fights like a whole squad." Helis blocked a blast aimed at Sira's head. "Then match his pace. Go." The Jedi surged forward with renewed momentum. Lightsabers carved arcs of blue and green through smoke, sparks, and metal. T'Challa advanced through the chaos, targeting the most dangerous fighters, the ones planting, breaching spikes, and the ones directing fire. Then he saw her. A Nihil Tempest Runner face, hidden behind a sweeping bone mask, armor streaked with lightning symbols. She carried a weapon that hummed with raw electrical instability. A storm blade, a fusion of vibrotech and unstable energy. "You fight clean," she snarled through her modulator. "I hate clean." "And you rely on chaos," T'Challa answered. "Which is why you will fall." She lunged. Her storm blade crackled with enough voltage to kill most sentients instantly. T'Challa dodged the first swipe, feeling the air vibrate dangerously close to his helmet. She moved with terrifying unpredictability feints, jagged slashes, inhuman angles guided more by rage than training. But rage was predictable in its own way. She aimed high. T'Challa went low. She struck left. He rolled right. Each time her blade glanced off his suit, energy surged into the vibranium mesh building, storing, waiting. Then he saw the opening. She overextended. He pivoted, drove his claws into her gauntlet, twisting until the weapon flew from her grasp. The Tempest Runner screamed and lashed out with a shock prod. T'Challa absorbed the strike fully, the suit glowing bright with kinetic energy. "You made a mistake," he said calmly. "And what's that?" she spat. "You gave me power." He triggered release. The blast hit like a thunderclap, hurling her across the corridor. She slammed into the bulkhead and collapsed unconscious. The remaining Nihil saw their commander fall, and their courage broke instantly. Retreat signals echoed through the boarding tunnel. Sira exhaled shakily. "They're withdrawing." "I've never seen the Nihil retreat that fast." T'Challa looked around the damaged corridor. Smoke rising from sparking panels. "They are not committed to victory, only terror." Helis extinguished her lightsaber. "Which may be why someone like you is exactly what the Jedi need." T'Challa removed his mask, breathing steadily. "I did what was necessary." "You fought like a Jedi," Sira said softly. He shook his head. "No. I fought like a king defending his people." Hela said nothing because she knew both could be true. And as the ship stabilized, T'Challa realized something unsettling. The Nihil had been unprepared for him. Next time, they wouldn't be. The Jedi outpost on Velo was quieter than usual. The corridors that once echoed with calm voices and meditation hymns now hummed with tension. Repairs were underway after the Nihil attack, and everywhere T'Challa walked, people paused to look at him not with fear, but with a dawning recognition. A stranger, a warrior, a force that did not belong to their galaxy, yet had saved their lives. T'Challa felt none of the pride such glances should have brought. His thoughts churned like a storm-tossed sea. He stood on one of the high balconies overlooking Valo's sparkling skyline. Everything in this era looked bright, hopeful, a galaxy convinced that peace was its natural state. It was beautiful, it was fragile, and it was painfully naive. Helis Vaughn found him there, leaning against the railing, still in his torn Panther habit. "You left the celebration early," she noted, stepping beside him. "It was not a celebration," T'Challa replied. It was relief disguised as gratitude. Helis gave a sad smile. "You speak like someone much older than you appear." He didn't answer. His mind replayed the Tempest Runner's chaos, the explosive unpredictability of Nihil attacks, and the way the raiders fled the moment he released the stored energy of his suit. Fear had stopped them, not negotiation, not diplomacy, not the Force. "You want to say something?" Helis pressed gently. He finally turned to her. "Your order is strong, but not enough. The Nihil do not fear you. We do not need fear to maintain peace." T'Challa shook his head. "Peace without deterrence is a prayer beautiful but unguarded." Helis stiffened. "That is not the Jedi way, and that is why your enemies are bold." Her expression faltered, as though he had pierced a truth she did not want to acknowledge. After a moment, she inhaled softly. "There is something you must know," she said. "The Council has convened. They have discussed the role you have played. They recognize your abilities, your instincts, your courage." T'Challa crossed his arms. "And what verdict has been reached?" "They wish to offer you a position within the Order." Her voice was steady, clear, serious. T'Challa blinked slowly. "As a Padawan?" "Not quite." Helis looked conflicted, as though she wasn't sure she agreed with what she was about to say. "They want to name you a provisional knight, a defender aligned with us, but not trained as we are. A unique role." "A Jedi?" he asked carefully. "A Jedi. Of circumstance," she clarified, "not bound by every rule, not molded through the temple, but recognized, given authority, given a path." T'Challa walked several steps away from her. The night air was cool, but not enough to calm the storm inside him. He had once stood before his ancestors and accepted the mantle of Black Panther, a decision rooted in duty and bloodline. Becoming a Jedi, even partially, demanded something different, the relinquishing of self. "Your hesitation is understandable," Helis said behind him. "Our order is complex. Your order is contradictory." T'Challa corrected gently. She laughed under her breath. "That too." He faced her fully. "If I accept, I am bound by your laws. I become part of your structure. I lose the freedom to lead my own people." "You lose nothing," she said softly. "Your people are not here. Your kingdom is not here. Your past cannot be reclaimed." But she saw the pain in his eyes the moment she said it. "T'Challa, I'm sorry." He looked away. Helis pressed on carefully. "You are lost between two destinies. The Council believes giving you purpose may ease that burden. You would not be forced to take vows. You would not be forbidden from emotion. We know you are not one of us. Then why offer it?" "Because our galaxy needs you." Her words hit him in the chest harder than any blow he'd taken from the Drengir or the Nihil. Our galaxy needs you. In Wakanda, he had been born into purpose. Here, purpose was reaching out to claim him uninvited but undeniable. He closed his eyes and let the truth settle. He was not a Jedi. He was not a king of this world. He was a displaced warrior with a responsibility no one else could shoulder. And yet, "I cannot abandon who I am," he whispered. "You would not have to," Helis replied. "The Council expects a Jedi, but you would be something else." He opened his eyes. "What do you mean?" "A guardian." Helis stepped closer. "A protector, not a peacekeeper. A shield for those who cannot defend themselves. That is the role you already play." "And the role of a king," T'Challa murmured. "Exactly." Her smile was soft and proud. "You are not choosing between paths. You are forging a new one." T'Challa considered her words. The decision was not simple. It would shape his future, his identity, his place in this universe. After a long silence, he nodded slowly. "I will hear the Council's offer." Helis exhaled as though she'd been holding her breath. "But understand," T'Challa added firmly, meeting her gaze, "I will defend this galaxy, but I will not become a servant of any order. I walk with the Jedi, not beneath them." Helis bowed her head respectfully. "And they will accept that." For the first time since his arrival, T'Challa felt clarity. He did not have to become a Jedi. He simply had to become what the galaxy needed: a protector, a guardian, a panther among the stars. The High Republic Jedi Council chamber was a cathedral of light, a circular hall suspended above Coruscant's endless skyline, its panoramic windows catching the glow of airspeeders rushing below. 12 masters sat in curved formation, radiant in calm serenity, and at the center stood T'Challa. He felt oddly exposed without his helmet. His Panther habit had been cleaned, but still bore the faint scars of the Nihil ambush, a reminder that his arrival had not been gentle nor peaceful. Master Avar Kriss spoke first, her voice warm but commanding. King T'Challa of Wakanda, or simply T'Challa now, you have shown remarkable bravery, compassion, and restraint despite the chaos you were thrust into. We extend our gratitude. T'Challa bowed respectfully. I only did what any protector would do. Not any protector, said Master Stellan Gios, studying him with analytical precision. Your instincts, your abilities, your approach to combat, they are unlike anything in our known galaxy. Master Orla Jareni leaned forward. The Force swirls around you, even though you do not touch it. You are outside our current understanding. That is because he walks with a different spirit, Helis Vaughn said from behind him. The council had granted her a place at the session as witness. His power comes from a goddess Bast. Soft murmurs rippled through the chamber. A deity. The Jedi did not worship gods. The Force was not a being, it was existence itself. T'Challa felt their curiosity, their caution. He spoke before it hardened into judgment. Bast is the Panther goddess of my people, but she is not distant. She empowers the protector of Wakanda, the Black Panther, with enhanced strength, senses, and connection to the ancestral plane. Avar's brow softened. Your abilities are divine in origin? In my world, yes, T'Challa answered. But here, I sense no ancestral plane. The connection is faint, as though the veil separating realms is thicker in this galaxy. Perhaps, suggested Master Yarel Poof, your world and ours flow through different spiritual threads. Bast's influence may be diluted here, competing with the Force. T'Challa considered this. It aligned with what he felt since arrival. His enhancements still functioned, but their rhythms were off, as if syncing to a new frequency. Stellan Gios tapped a finger on his armrest. Your power is neither Jedi nor Sith. It challenges our understanding of where strength comes from. Avar leaned forward, which is why we wish to offer you a unique role. T'Challa's gaze sharpened. The Order recognizes that you are not a Jedi, she said gently, and we will not attempt to mold you into one. Instead, we propose a partnership, a path parallel to ours, a guardian whose presence strengthens the light, not by our teachings, but by your own. Master Porter Ingle the Blade of Bardata grinned, a warrior who fights beside us but answers to his own conscience. I like it. However, came a cooler voice, Master Nibasik, we must ensure such a warrior understands the dangers of power without discipline. T'Challa's expression did not shift, but something hard and controlled flickered in his eyes. I am disciplined, he said evenly. I am a king. I carry the weight of every life entrusted to me. That does not vanish simply because my world is gone. Silence. Heavy. Respectful. It was Avar who finally broke it. We do not seek to command you. We seek alignment. A mutual oath of intent. You will protect life. You will oppose the dark side. But how you uphold those responsibilities will be your choice. An independent guardian. A warrior aligned with the Jedi, but not bound to them. It was the closest thing this galaxy could offer to the mantle of Black Panther. But T'Challa needed one answer before he accepted. And what of Bast's path? He asked quietly. If my power comes from an entity beyond your understanding, will you seek to suppress it? Limit it? Name it dangerous? Master Orla Jareni stood. Her white robes shimmered softly in the sunlight. The Force belongs to all life. It is not jealous. It is not threatened. If Bast granted you power to protect, then your path is already aligned with ours. Avar nodded. We will not ask you to abandon your goddess. T'Challa exhaled slowly, a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. For the first time since arriving in this galaxy, he felt a truth settle into place. He did not have to choose between Bast and the Force. He could walk between them. My path is my own, T'Challa said at last. But it will run alongside yours. I accept your offer." In unison, the council bowed their heads. Hela smiled behind him, proud, relieved, and perhaps a little awed. But even as the moment carried a warmth T'Challa hadn't felt since Wakanda, something tugged at the edge of his senses. A disturbance, a tension, a shadow. The Force was whispering, and though he did not wield it, even he could feel the warning. The galaxy was shifting, and T'Challa's role in its future was only beginning. The galaxy rarely rested. Even in the serene corridors of the High Republic, rumors of Nihil movements spread like wildfire. T'Challa had barely acclimated to his new role, a unique protector aligned with the Jedi but guided by his own code when the first warning arrived. A distress beacon pulsed through the outpost navicomputer, distorted by static and fear. Hela Svon's eyes narrowed as she examined the message. "They're moving faster than expected," she said. "This is no routine raid." T'Challa stood beside her, claws sheathed but senses alert. Who sent this? A civilian convoy in the Velo Sector. Their escort was overwhelmed. The Nihil took everything. The words were sharp, biting. The Nihil did not strike to conquer. They struck to terrorize, to break spirits, to prove that order itself was meaningless. T'Challa's jaw tightened. "Then we give them a reason to fear us." Within the hour, T'Challa, Hellas, and a contingent of Jedi Knights boarded a swift star cruiser. The engines hummed as hyperspace stretched into a ribbon of stars, but T'Challa's mind was elsewhere. He focused on the currents around him, the subtle vibrations of nearby systems, the lingering echoes of Bast's power intertwined faintly with the Force. This time, he would not wait. The convoy was a ghost in space, drifting through a broken trade route. Stripped of life support and escort, smoke and debris trailed from half-scorched freighters as Nihil ships loomed in the distance. Their storm-marked hulls jagged, irregular, bristling with energy weapons. "They've set a trap," Helis muttered, scanning the formation. "They knew we'd come." T'Challa's eyes narrowed. "Then we changed the rules." The Nihil had learned from previous encounters. They deployed shadow mines, microjammers, and cloaked skimmer craft. Their boarding parties were faster, more coordinated, more ruthless. Yet T'Challa's presence changed the equation. He leapt into the boarding bay first, his kinetic suit absorbing bursts of energy and redirecting them with precision. Blasters discharged at impossible angles, but T'Challa anticipated each trajectory. His claws tore through mech plating like paper, dismantling drones and disabling railguns. One Neo commander, a massive figure clad in dark-scarred armor, advanced toward him, wielding twin electrified pikes. The strikes were relentless, violent, designed to overwhelm. But T'Challa's agility, honed over decades of ritualized combat and tempered by the Panther god's blessing, allowed him to evade, parry, and strike with lethal precision. A Jedi Knight appeared beside him, igniting a saber to block a sweeping arc. "He's unreal," the Knight shouted. T'Challa glanced over his shoulder. "I do not fight like you." Every movement was both offensive and defensive, every strike a statement. "We do not yield." Outside the boarding bay, Helis coordinated the remaining forces. Starships twisted in combat, deflectors overloading and repelling the Nihil's assault. The Jedi relied on their training, their connection to the Force, but even they recognized that the tide had shifted. It was T'Challa who gave them the advantage. He found the command module, a jagged, storm-painted vessel at the heart of the formation. Using a combination of tactical ingenuity and raw power, he disabled the module's shields with energy redirected from his suit and disarmed the central engine in a single, precise strike. The remaining Nihil faltered. Confusion rippled through their ranks. They had underestimated him, a single, formidable figure whose presence disrupted the predictable chaos they thrived on. The commander snarled, realizing the battle was turning. "Panther! The outsider!" he hissed. T'Challa crouched, claws extended, poised to strike the final blow. His voice was calm but deadly. "You will leave this sector, or you will face me again. And next time, it will not be mercy that greets you." The Nihil retreated, their ships scattered into hyperspace, leaving wreckage and echoes behind. The convoy was safe, the civilian survivors trembling but alive. Hela stepped beside him as the adrenaline faded. You saved them all. T'Challa exhaled slowly, scanning the horizon. I did what needed to be done. But this is only the beginning. The Nihil will adapt, and I must be ready. For the first time, he understood the true scale of his new role. He was not only a guardian aligned with the Jedi, he was a symbol of resistance, a reminder that courage, strategy, and responsibility could bend even the cruelest chaos. The galaxy had given him a chance, and T'Challa would ensure it did not squander it. The storm on the horizon was no ordinary weather phenomenon. It wasn't rain or lightning, though both tore through the sky like nature in revolt. It was the Nihil, a fleet larger than any T'Challa had encountered, converging on the Velo Sector with a single purpose: to destroy the High Republic's hope and make a statement that chaos reigned supreme. T'Challa's starcruiser sliced through the fractured atmosphere of Velo Prime, the hull groaning against the stress of rapid maneuvers. The Jedi Knights aboard braced themselves, but their eyes constantly flicked to him. He was the fulcrum of this battle, not just a fighter, but a force that disrupted the enemy's rhythm and bolstered their own. Hellas Vaughn's voice crackled over the comms. Panther, we've located the Tempest Runner. She's commanding the fleet from the flagship. If we don't stop her, the Nihil will decimate the sector. T'Challa's eyes narrowed beneath his mask. Then she dies by my hand. Or I die trying. The flagship loomed like a jagged fortress in the swirling clouds, lightning crackling along its hull. Inside, the Tempest Runner prepared her final gambit, a weapon of pure disruption, capable of destabilizing the Force itself, designed to shatter the Jedi's confidence and make every defender question their identity. T'Challa entered the breach first. The corridor was a blur of alarms and sparks, but he moved with predator-like precision. The Tempest Runner waited at the end, her storm blade humming and crackling, a dark mirror to the violet energy surging in T'Challa's suit. You've survived this far, she hissed, but it will not save you. I am not here to survive, T'Challa replied. I am here to protect. She lunged, strikes cutting through the air like jagged lightning. T'Challa dodged fluidly, each movement calculated, exploiting her overextensions. Every hit he absorbed through the kinetic mesh of his suit was redirected, his claws tearing through her defenses, each blow precise, measured, and deadly. But the Tempest Runner was relentless, anticipating his patterns, pushing him to the edge. A misstep could cost him everything, not just his life, but the lives of everyone counting on him. Then he felt it, the subtle vibration of the Force around him, alien but familiar. He had learned to sense it in fragments since his arrival, using it alongside his own instinct. He focused, blending Bast's power with the Force currents, creating a synergy that neither the Jedi nor the Nihil could have predicted. He struck, not in anger, but in perfect clarity. His claws disarmed her Stormblade, sending it flying across the chamber. She staggered, and he followed with a palm strike that sent a shockwave through the deck, toppling machinery and breaking her balance completely. You underestimate what it means to defend life, he said, advancing. The Tempest Runner snarled, lunging one final time. T'Challa sidestepped, anchoring himself and releasing a controlled kinetic surge. It hit her with the combined force of vibranium and precise energy redirection. She collapsed, convulsing but alive. Bound by reinforced restraints the Jedi had readied in advance. The fleet outside faltered as the flagship lost its command coordination. Without their leader's chaotic guidance, the remaining Nihil ships scattered into hyperspace, their assault undone. The civilians in the Velo Sector were safe. Hellas exhaled over the comms, her voice tight with relief. The Tempest Runner is contained. The sector is secured. You did this. T'Challa removed his mask, breathing heavily, sweat mixing with the grime of battle. He surveyed the aftermath debris, damaged ships, terrified but unharmed civilians. He felt the weight of his victories, the responsibility still looming, and the burden of his role in a galaxy that was not his own. A Jedi Knight approached, bowing deeply. Master T'Challa, you fought with wisdom, courage, and honor beyond anything we've seen. You are not only a protector, you are a symbol. T'Challa shook his head, humility tempered by resolve. Symbols mean nothing if they do not act. and this galaxy needs action now more than ever. He looked toward the horizon, the setting suns of Velo casting long shadows over the repaired ships. The battle was won, but the war was far from over. The Nihil would return, stronger, more cunning. And T'Challa Panther of Wakanda, guardian of the High Republic, would be waiting. He clenched his fists, feeling Bast's power resonate with the Force in a perfect, improbable harmony. He had faced gods, monsters, and chaos itself, and he had not yielded. Because in this galaxy, as in his own, a king did not retreat. A king protected. A king led. And T'Challa would lead, not as a Jedi, not as an outsider, but as something greater, a guardian of all life. The stars themselves seemed to whisper in agreement, and somewhere deep inside, he felt the faint pulse of the Force and the roar of Bast converge into one undeniable truth. His path had only just begun. The aftermath of the Nihil assault left the Velo Sector battered but breathing. Starships hovered in orbit, some repaired in haste, others drifting as salvage crews began the laborious work of reclamation. Jedi Knights and Padawans moved methodically, tending to injured civilians and assessing structural damage, but T'Challa's presence dominated the scene like a living beacon. He stood at the edge of the main landing platform, gazing out across the fleet and the city below. His suit bore scratches and scorch marks from the battle, but the Panther inside him remained unbroken. Bast's power still hummed in tandem with the faint pulse of the Force, a resonance that had grown stronger with every encounter since his arrival. Helis approached quietly, her robes brushing the deck, eyes focused on him with a mix of admiration and concern. "You've done more than anyone could have hoped," she said softly. T'Challa shook his head, thoughtful. "I've done what was necessary. The Jedi may follow their codes, the galaxy may cling to its doctrines, but this world needs more than doctrine. It needs defenders willing to act when action is required." Helis nodded. "The Council will recognize your efforts. They understand your place is unique, neither fully Jedi nor entirely outside their influence. A guardian in your own right." He allowed himself a faint smile. "A path forged, not given. That is how a king leads." The High Republic would remember him differently than the legends of Wakanda. Here, he was not merely royalty or a warrior from another world. He was a symbol that transcended boundaries, bridging alien divinity and galactic mysticism. The civilians he had saved whispered his name. The Jedi had seen him endure trials that tested body, spirit, and identity. And even the Nihil, once fearsome in their unpredictability, had learned that a single outsider could change the tide of battle. Yet, he did not linger in triumph. The galaxy remained vast, perilous, and filled with uncertainties. Each victory brought new responsibility, and T'Challa understood that his journey had only begun. His role was not to dominate or dictate, but to guide, protect, and inspire. He had embraced a path parallel to the Jedi, independent, moral, and guided by Bast's wisdom. As he turned toward the fleet's remaining ships, he considered his next steps. Would he return to Wakanda? If such a return were even possible, could he balance this new mantle with the weight of his kingdom's legacy? The answers were uncertain, but one truth remained unshakable. He would not abandon this galaxy. He would walk its stars as a guardian, a king among worlds. The suns of Velo dipped below the horizon, painting the skies with gold and crimson. In that light, T'Challa's silhouette was regal and unyielding, a figure both familiar and extraordinary. The Force pulsed faintly, Bast's energy intertwined with it, affirming that the choice he had made to protect, to lead, to walk a new path was righteous, even if untested by time. The galaxy was watching, and the Panther would answer. T'Challa had arrived as an outsider, a king from another world, unmoored yet resolute. Across countless battles, from the Nihil's initial assault to the Tempest Runner's flagship, he had proven that courage and wisdom could transcend universes, that instinct and divine guidance could harmonize with the Force itself. He had faced trials designed to unravel both body and spirit. Yet, he remained whole, choosing not merely to survive but to lead. His alliance with the High Republic was unconventional, neither Padawan nor knight, neither student nor commander. Instead, he became a symbol of independent vigilance, a guardian who acted with moral clarity, strategic precision, and unflinching courage. The galaxy would remember him not just for victories, but for the choices he made in the shadows between stars, choices that saved lives, inspired courage, and reshaped the understanding of what power and responsibility truly meant. T'Challa's journey had only begun. Between Bast's blessings and the currents of the Force, he carved a path uniquely his own, one that bridged worlds, philosophies, and destinies. The High Republic would endure not because the galaxy was safe, but because kings, guardians, and heroes like him dared to stand when chaos threatened to prevail. And though his old world called from afar, the Panther had found a new purpose among the stars. Is greater than, is greater than, is greater than. May the Force be with you. More stories await.